What's up YouTube? Leon here, and today I'll be playing some Flinthook, a game by Tribute Games, a smaller indie developer who specializes in very nice pixel art. And the music's really loud. I can't hear myself. This game is a platformer roguelite, and it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of different mechanics I'll get into, so let's just get into this. So I have played for around about like 30 minutes of the game, and after those 30 minutes I kind of wanted to play a little bit and record it because it seems like a really cool and interesting game. So yeah, let's first talk about Tribute and their older games really quick. Again, I've said before, Tribute is a very small indie developer. Or pretty small, I'm not sure how big they are now. But they made some pretty interesting 2D games. And I would have to say for each of their games, they look really pretty. They're pretty games. They're pretty. And this one's no exception, of course. It's kind of hard to talk and play this because it does have a little bit of skill involved too. Let me just try to kill Worm Guy. Yeah, Tribute again they specialize in these kind of like really gorgeous 16-bit visuals, and they made games like Whiz Orb or one of their more famous ones, Scott Pilgrim Beat 'em Up, which is great. And I think a lot of their games have one thing in common, and it's that a lot of their games feel very stiff when you play them. Especially one of their games, I think it was like Curses and Chaos. That one was like very stiff gameplay. Even Scott Pilgrim to an extent was very stiff to play. And Mercenary Kings as well, very like stiff gameplay. And I think this game is their first game that actually looks super fluid to play. Like, in terms of a gameplay standpoint, it's just really fast and fluid. It gives the player a lot of control, and that's one thing I really enjoy in some of my favorite video games, is that the controls are very fluid. Some of my favorite games are like that. And this one, I think finally, for Tribute, they made some smooth gameplay this time around. And they even have like different mechanics going on, which I'll get into after this boss because it's hard to explain while trying to kill boss. So yeah, the main features of this is the hook mechanic and the slow-mo, which I've been using. Ah! Was the first death. I think that's what I get for trying to talk and play at the same time. Alright, so like any other roguelite games out there, there's like a progression system. Randomly generated levels. I guess each level is like pieces, and they're just given to you randomly. It's pretty interesting. I think that the more standout thing in this game is the gameplay itself, not the random generation. Alright, so I'm not sure about these perks. If these cards just go away if I use them. I think they do, so might as well just use them. you know, they don't seem that great. So yeah, I guess when I died, I had to start over and try to get all the stuff again, so it makes it easier for me to explain how this game works, and Tribute as well. As I've said before, Tribute, their older games have been very stiff. Scott Pilgrim and Mercenary Kings, Curses and Chaos, just very stiff games. Even Wizorb, to an extent, is very stiff to play. And even in old games weren't that stiff to begin with. It's just the way they program their games. And it seems like finally now they're getting the hang of it, or they're trying to do something new with it, because the gameplay in this game is very, very fast and fluid. And their artwork, I think, got better as well. It seems like they worked very hard on this game. So let me go over the mechanics more in depth, I guess. So we have the main character here. He can jump around and use his hook to go and hook up on these things and give himself some movement. And since this hook doesn't have like a cooldown or anything, it's very fast. You can just keep using it constantly. And because of that, the gameplay is very fast as well. Well, you can make it fast because of this hook mechanic. Again, one of the best things in video games is freedom of movement. I think that really makes the game fun, or feel fun. I think a lot of indie developers actually don't really embrace that concept as much, freedom of movement. I think they're trying to emulate more of the past kind of conventions. They want to make it feel like an older game, but in this one, they try to make it look like an older game, but also bring it into like a more modern setting with the movement. It's also another little modern touch is the roguelike elements. It's not completely roguelike, but it has more randomly generated things going on for it. I do feel like that kind of genre is kind of getting old, where it's like, oh, we have randomly generated levels and stuff. Every playthrough is different. It gives you a challenge because everything's different all the time. And I think a lot of times, if it's not done right, it won't be a very good experience, I would say. But so far, this is pretty cool. I just like the gameplay in general. It's very fast, pretty easy to get into. So there's also this slow-mo mechanic, but I still haven't seen one of the thingies that actually ties into the slow-mo mechanic itself. But yeah, you have this slow-mo, what's this? Slow-mo meter thing. Reminds me a lot of Max Payne a little bit. What else? The other games that use slow-mo mechanics. This is pretty cool. It's more like a power-up. It was like Cluster Truck or something. It was kind of like that. Whoa, okay, this guy's being a dick. He doesn't stop? That was bad, alright. So there's still a lot of elements of learning here before getting good at it. So you just have to learn how to deal with certain enemies and stuff. Like a good challenging game should. Oh! But it's very charming to look at, I would say. A lot of the graphical charm is there. And I think it's even more so compared to like Scott Pilgrim or Mercenary Kings. Just really nice to look at. A lot of character in the graphics. Embraces that 16-bit look while still being a little bit modern, because you know this game can't be played on an NES. It doesn't look like it can be played on an NES. It's a little bit too modern. Yeah, so the 30 minutes I've been playing, I don't know if there's any like hidden walls like in Binding of Isaac, or any like real big secrets yet. I know in the trailer they kind of talk about secrets and stuff, so I'm sure there's like hidden walls that I would have to make sure I know how to destroy later on. Yeah, but I've been enjoying a lot of these indie games that are really just putting their all into the game, so like in terms of gameplay and graphics. And I think there was a time where indie games kind of focused too much on nostalgia. Like they're just trying to focus on the game's looks rather than the gameplay. There was like a time when that was happening. I'm trying to remember what games that were like that, but I can't really think of any right now. But now it seems like indie games have really been coming into their own thing. Like Owlboy and Enter the Gungeon is one game I was playing a ton of. Now it's this one. Really hope this one does have a lot more depth to it when I keep going. We destroyed a ship and we got a piece. Alright, so I kind of understand how this game works a little bit more. So unlike other indie games of the genre, or roguelite genre, this is more... This doesn't have a focus on items, like in Binding of Isaac or Spelunky. Even to an extent, Enter the Gungeon. This feels a lot more skill-oriented. Like you're more up against the level and less on luck. It's more like a skillful kind of game, which I'm more for actually. I don't think it's gonna keep my attention as long as like something like Enter the Gungeon. But I really hope it opens up later on. It'd be really cool. Yeah, whenever you hear a lot of things about random generation, it's not actually randomly generated. It's more like random pieces of pre-made puzzles are put together. I think very few games actually embrace true random generation, and even then there's still some like things they have to make sure they pay attention to. Like in Spelunky, they want to make sure the player can get through the level, at least somehow get through the level. And to an extent there's like bombs that help you get through the level if there's no plausible way to get through it. Stuff like that. If every game had like full random generation, it's too unpredictable for the player to be prepared for every situation. So a lot of these roguelite games, like this one, have like more random pieces stitched together rather than a full random generation. It's not really a bad thing, it's more... That's what they have to do to make a fun user experience. I also have been playing some older ones like Rogue Legacy. And I don't know about Rogue Legacy. I guess for the time when it came out, it was probably really cool, but I don't know, it's a little bit too grindy for my taste. It's one of those games where you can't. It's like almost impossible to beat it from square one. Like you'd need more stuff to actually beat it. I can see some appeal in that, but I'm not into it. So far, health hasn't been too much of an issue in this game. Again, it's still early. It's still very early into the game, so I don't know if it's gonna actually open up a lot more. I did mess up on the boss, which is unfortunate. Now I know the consequences of dying in this game. It's pretty harsh, I would say. Oh, this is weird. Stop. Okay, this room is not good. Dang it, this room sucks. This room sucks. Oh, I could just do that. Okay, never mind. I'm just playing really bad. So one thing that this game doesn't have is like a teleport system, I don't think. That's the one thing Enter the Gungeon did to really push the genre forward, I would say, at least. You can teleport to certain rooms, which is just made the game a lot faster, especially if you're trying to explore every room in a level. But I do like the little touches in this game. There's a lot of really nice touches to it. Games like this take a long time to build too, so good pixel art takes a long time. And you hear trash truck in the background.